talking about what the hell is this? This is a Green Lantern. Now, actually, I said Ed, there was two unwatchable films, two unwatchable things in this, and these things. This is not one. When Green Lantern is not one of them, that's a bad sign. Really is. This is just a film that doesn't work. Really. I watched it for this and I thought it was going to be much worse. I hadn't seen it for a long time. And it's just okay. It's like one of those films that don't work. But it's fairly inoffensive, ultimately. I think the most offensive thing about this film is how much it costs, because it didn't need to cost as much as it did for what it is. It was a production mistake rather than anything else. You should only be offended by his budget, not anything else that they did in this thing. So it stars Ryan Reynolds and his... How many of his comic book performances failed before Deadpool? The problem with him is he does have that energy he should be in a comic book adaptation. I think everyone understood that, but it was like finding the right part. And eventually when he got to Deadpool, he found the right part. But this one, he's not quite right, not quite wrong for it. It's just like the character's meant to be... Was originally written, Hal Jordan was a much more stoic character. They hired Ryan Reynolds, so they had to adjust it a little bit. And they made it about a guy who had to understand... but someone who can overcome fear. That's the thing, is to understand that's why he's a Green Lantern. He can overcome fear. But they never quite worked out what Ryan Reynolds does and what the character is. They never quite found the mix there. So they overdid it and made him too much of a nightmare to deal with at times. And other times made him too noble. And it was like... If you look at Deadpool when Reynolds is in charge of it, he understands himself more than the people here understood him. So he understands where to make himself look a bit of an ass and where to make himself be beaten down. And this one, he doesn't get beaten down enough is one of the big problems. He just gets... Things happen, he has a few challenges, he winds a little bit and then he overcomes it. It's not really a great story of someone overcoming great problems. It's he has to overcome a minor ego issue, and that's it. That's not really a heroic arc. I mean, it's really not. So it was directed by Martin Campbell, who did Casino Royale, GoldenEye, those two Bond films that were good. He also did the Zorro films as well. But he's also done some other films like Vertical Limit, and this one, and No Escape, which are what I'd call enjoyable schlock. They're not good films, but I could happily rewatch them anytime. They're schlock. You know, they're really kind of... It's not like you can watch them anytime, actually. You can watch them every so often when you've forgotten half of it, is the best way to put it. But they're... And you know they're not very good, but they're kind of enthusiastic, is the best way to put it, really. And it's just one of those directors who has good turns and bad turns. He was miscast for this film. He's the biggest miscast in the film, was the director. He doesn't get the character. He doesn't get what it needs, and he doesn't know what to focus on. Because this is a film that has so many scenes of explanation of what the Green Lantern is, when all you had to do was say, he's a space cop. And giving him a early story as a space cop. And that's all you had to do with this character. And watch him figure out the job. That's all this character needed. They could have done half the money. They could have cast the same person and just did Space Cop the movie. And you'd have done a better job. Instead, they have to try and build worlds and say, oh, this is super serious. We're giving you a serious story. And I've explained all of these things about the willpower, the Green Lantern, the Yellow Lantern, the Red Lantern, all these lanterns about all the different bits of energy, willpower and things. Is like everyone's watching going, what? I don't get this. When you say Space Cop, he can do stuff with a lantern in it. Whatever he imagines, he can come up as a green thing from his ring. And people would go, oh, okay, that's fine. It's how easy it is. Spot the difference in approach. But the thing is, the pomposity of this film is actually what I actually quite like about it. It really does have this sense of, it's trying to be an ambitious sci-fi movie when it's really a stupid B-level superhero movie. but it doesn't realise what it is. And that's kind of the thing I enjoyed, was like, they made the job way too difficult for themselves. They try to explain way too much. And instead of just having a basic setup film and then delivering in a sequel the bigger picture of what it all is, they had to decide they had to make him like try and save the universe the first time out, even though he's just starting the job and doesn't know what he's doing for most of the film. He still saves the universe. I mean, you watch that and you're going, I'm disengaged. That doesn't make sense. This is a film that was apparently no script at the start of the film. They were rewriting it as they went. They were changing it all. And everyone knew there was something was going deeply wrong with this film. And you can see it on the screen. It's like no one had a clue what the film was. But they kept on adding lore and more lore to it and just hoping for the best. And then every so often add some snarkiness to it. But you've got a great character who is selfish, who does things to appeal to his own ego rather than the people around him, who eventually learns to grow up a little bit. That's based his arc, to be responsible, when he should be responsible, like, at the start of the film. There's things like that just don't engage you, and it's like not understanding what the story needed and not understanding what the actor needed to portray it. It's a problem. It's like not understanding anything about what film you're making is an issue. But what it does have is a lot of good actors in it. With Tim Robbins as the dad of the villain, Peter Skarsgård as the villain. I don't think they're old. I don't think Tim Robbins is old enough to be Peter Skarsgård's father, to be honest. They just give him lots of grey hair and just hope for the best. But they're both good. They're trying to do a human story with the villain. There's a guy who's infected with this thing and it brings out all his worst instincts. That works. Whenever Skarsgård's on, so many people with that similar sounding surname. Whenever they're on, it's good. Taika Waititi is an early part. He's Reynolds' pal throughout the film, who's is excited by all the technology. Again, he has fun with a very limited part. He's probably just picking up the paycheck. Reynolds is trying his best as well. Everyone's trying. It's just that the film doesn't know what it wants to be. It's just like, and all the effects are good. They actually had this thing where they're going to, because it's an alien technology, instead of having them spandex, they're just going to have this CGI thing around them to make the suit look alien. Which is what they do in Marvel now. Actually have a lot of them just have them the weird suits on, and they add the suit later, the proper suit later. So it's something they would actually do because it actually is much easier to animate. But it wasn't quite there yet, and I think they could have just gone away with spandex. And it's a fun idea to look at, but the effects look dated now. But it's still, again, it's one of those things. As a sci-fi fan, it's enjoyable to see this weird world and this weird science put in, and I've spent all this money on something that's not actually needed. But I enjoyed all that kind of weird stuff. Always interesting looking is the whole world of the Green Lanterns. There's lots of nice shots of Oa. You wouldn't want to live there, but it's a nice set of shots there. The world is set up is interesting looking, but very grey and a bit too realistic to set your imagination off. That's another thing is, Mark Campbell likes realistic films. He doesn't like flights of fantasy. And this film needed a flight of fantasy director. Needed someone who could go nuts and create weird visuals that would make you go, whoa, that's interesting. You don't have that. You have a plot that relies on having that by showing the universe, but not having a universe you really, unless you really like the realistic version of the universe, it's not, and it's not even realistic, it's realistic to that comic book world. It's not realistic to the actual universe. So it creates this disjunction of, it's not as fantastical as the audience probably wanted, the people who are paying for wanted, and it's a very limited audience for this world to start with. You had to charm people into this world because no one knew it, and they create a world that was actually just kind of so. It's like, I can imagine that, but it's not fascinating. It doesn't make you want to see more of the world, and that kind of becomes a problem as well. And just this whole sense in this film that no one had figured it out before they started. They'd chosen the wrong director. There were problems with the script. They chose an actor they had to work the part into. And it could have worked. I think it could have worked actually. But they didn't know how to make it work. Because they didn't really have a story. Like, it was that thing of they built a script, they cast a director and actor, they rewrote the script a lot, and they had this thing that never fit anything. It's just one of those films that never really fit. They don't have anyone in charge who knows this is why this film will work. This is how it will deliver. There's just none of that. You never have a sense of that. Like, if you've seen the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, whether you like it or not for the realism, and now this film was obviously influenced by that kind of aesthetic of trying to make it as realistic as possible. He was making a film he wanted to see, and everyone else was invited, and it was built out of that. And that's when you know a sense of this a film that the director wanted to see. Just like there's a job, and this should have been something else. This is a fantastic thing. It should have been something else. The bizarre thing is they made an animated series at the same time as this to build upon the hope for success of this. An animated series is way better than it was done cheaply and with computer graphics. They did not look great, but it was way better than film because it actually had the charm of the source material. And understood that some of this is silly, but if you take it seriously, you can make it work. And if you look at what James Gunn does, he takes things that are fantastical and silly, takes them seriously enough, but also has a sense of humour. And that's what this film was crying out for, is to allow more of a sense of humour, but also of a world that you want to be in. And it just doesn't have that. It just feels like it's too serious for its own good. It's too fragmented as a narrative. It's too much based on things you've seen before as a narrative, so everything they could do is forced into the routine of you have to learn responsibility, blah blah blah, here's a training sequence, here's the sequence where you fail, here's the sequence where you build yourself back up and succeed. Everything you've seen before, and you've just fit someone into that and it doesn't fit. You try to squeeze something and it doesn't fit. It just doesn't work at all. But I still have a soft spot for this one. It doesn't really work though. It really doesn't. But it's not the worst thing in the world. It got terrible reviews. It's not that bad. It's mediocre. You know, a film I'm about to cover much worse. but yeah, no, this is just okay. That's it. It's okay. Marvel has done much worse with the Marvels and Wakanda Forever in recent years for how boring and stupid a film can get and how wrong footed it can get. This is just mediocre. That's all it is, mediocre. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon for another one. Bye for now.